Welcome. Good morning. It's a beautiful morning.
Grand Rising, everyone. Here we are again on Sunday. It's been a little while. We're back. It seems like we're live now and everything. Don't forget, if you want to join the Zoom, you could go to both our bios and just follow the Zoom link, and you'll be led into the Zoom room. Either way, you'll still get to hear us, and we're going to begin.
Yes.
We'd like to begin opening the space, one with a deep breath to clear all the energies we've brought in and the energies that we want to let go of. And following, we like to touch and connect and invite you to touch and connect, one with each other and with all the spaces that are open for growth, acceptance, and awareness. I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge our dear sister Soraya, who did crossover last week, and just acknowledge her presence as she moves through the currents and spaces, and that she knows that our love is always guiding her and her love guiding us. And we give thanks. We definitely give thanks. Oh,
Uh, we also want to do a shout out, give a shout out to our tech uh, engineer, Claudia Palacios. We're just so grateful for her energy and her love and her time that she gives us to be able to do this. We're just so grateful. And so, ooh, big energy for you, love, peace.
if any of you are interested in her tech help, she is open for more gigs.
She's a master. Wow. So there's been so much going on in our personal lives, in our world life, in the world, and we haven't been connected with you for a few weeks, and we just felt like there needs to be some kind of landing spot for us to jump off of, or to hang on to, or whatever it is that you need. But we, Chrissy and I, were talking about what is it that this time is about. Like, what are we moving through? I think it would be nice to start with, how the cosmic energies and the alignments, because there's a great big conjunction, right? This happening now, or this, tomorrow. And I am not as versed in it, but I really feel like that information is important, because these are energies that move and affect us, and having that little bit of information might give you some insight on how you're feeling physically, emotionally, mentally. And would you like to talk about that?
Sure. One of the big conjunctions that you might be seeing being talked about a lot right now is the Jupiter Saturn conjunction. And basically, these are two very different forces, but they're very big. So they affect us a lot. Um, Jupiter affects our abundance, our knowledge, and our, because it affects our abundance, it could be excess, or these are the imbalanced versions of it. It could go into excess, or it can bring you wisdom, because it's also, Jupiter is also known in Vedic astrology as the guru, and also as the eternal baby. So that's the kind of energy it brings. And Saturn is more of a grandfather type force that will keep giving you your lessons until you learn them. That is really teaching you. A lot of people fear Saturn because Saturn is also the Grim Reaper, but that means that he's about transfer. transformation. It doesn't only mean that it takes you off the
Mhm.
face of the earth, you know?
Mm.
That's the beauty of Jupiter and Saturn in conjunct, is that you actually get to see that you're the one in charge of whether you take yourself off the face of the earth or not, or you walk into this grand change. This conjunction only happens every 600 years. And the ancestors definitely knew it was coming. So a lot of people in
Mm.
2012 were waiting for either catastrophic transformation. Some people said it was the end of the world. If you were a little more versed in the long count, you knew that it was just the end of that era, of that sun, that we then are entering a new sun. And that being said, that transformation has been happening since 2012. And there have been things that have been coming up in our lives, not only as humans, but for the earth as well, every year. Some people have dealt with what has come up every year, and some people have not.
Mm.
So when we're reaching now the 21st, it's a time where the earth, the celestial bodies, they're going to change regardless if you're with them or not. And
Mm.
that being said, I mean, you're still with them. You always get a chance. Life is infinite. But in this reality, in this time and space, there's transformation. And it might feel like, if it feels like a lot is happening to you at once, and that you feel out of control of it, you don't know where it's coming from, then there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot that you have not been looking at and tackling. But if you feel like you see these things happening and your life actually feels balanced, then you probably have been working on what it is that your life has been asking for, the type of transformation your personal self has been challenged with. The A lot of times, you will see, if you look up in the sky and you have a telescope, you will see that the two planets look like one planet. They're literally gonna look on top of each other. But this actually happens within us as well. It's not something, if you were in a cave and you couldn't see this, you're still going to experience a change. So within yourself, it also means that these forces, because it's all part of our psyche, of our makeup, of our buildup, of our, that there is a part of us that is eternally young and is looking for wisdom and change. And that there's a part of us that is like an elder, since we're children, that is also trying to preserve structure, build, lay and build foundation. And so this is, it's a within experience. Do not think you, the proof of that you cannot be left behind is, like I said, you might be feeling it all coming at once. So there's no such thing externally being left behind. You're the only one who can abandon yourself or give up, really.
Wow. I mean, if that's a jump off point, I don't know a better one. And this is I really want to have a conversation about that. So um, I'm the only one who's responsible for whether I get left behind or not. I'm the one who is responsible whether I dive into, um, seeing what I'm missing that is keeping me left behind. What would that look like? What is it that would keep me from moving forward? What would it look like for that would keep me from being aware?
I I believe everyone in their life at some point has had some experience that makes them feel expanded and makes them feel as if they're growing into something that feels almost like an adventure, like you don't know what's at the end of it, but you're excited about it. That's when we're moving with the current. That's when you're actually embracing the unknown and seeing how your uniqueness fits into it. When we begin to feel depressed, sad, unaccomplished, sick, that's the extreme of it, when the body physically is sick. Um, those are signs that there's some stagnicity, that you've been frozen in a place that you've been unable to unlock and move out of.
Hmm.
And I can't think of another one at the moment.
I think that's a really good place to expand on as we move forward. Before we move forward, um, there there are a lot of people who are feeling depressed and sad and disconnected and anxious. These are the most common things that I'm seeing come into the office is this anxiousness. And I feel like it is that it's like you're in this mud of your life where you the same thing over and over. And then a pandemic hits and you can't leave, you can't have a distraction, and you still, and your panic and depression or sadness grows. And this is that place where we can be left behind, in that it's a wake up call. It's saying the energy isn't moving within you. I like that word you said, stagnant.
Mhm.
It's stuck, stagnant. These are the signs that um, your personal energy, especially that sadness, and we do often feel it, but we don't know what to do with it. We make it a bad thing, or we make it like there's something wrong with us. We must need drugs, And I just want to say that Chrissy is giving us some insight on the idea that it's a sign of our stagnicity and our our energy not being addressed. And this is an opportunity to reach out and have someone open up the picture and just look inside, or move the energy, or free free you from the idea that this is a bad thing, or that this is something that you know is a stigma, or it's a hereditary. I believe there is a part of it that is hereditary, and it's the idea that we're we don't have power to change it. um, it gets transferred from one generation to the next, and you get to be the generation that breaks that stagnicity and reignites the energy. Why do you think young people are so angry, or it's because they are coming with an energy that is untainted. But as they get more involved in the family dynamic or the world dynamic, they get pulled back into that stagnicity. And this might be an opportunity for you to be the generation that breaks it and clears it, and, you know, breaks down all that muck and young junk, and is available to what's present.
So one of the things about um, anxiety is that it's not being in the present. It's that you're either stuck in the past or you're looking too far into the future. One thing I do want to say about the future though is that we have moved into Aquarius, and Aquarius is about foresight of the future, and it moves fast. It is wind, it is air. So there may be a part of you that is asking like, what are we doing in the future? Like, where is this going? That's natural, of course. Yet, if you don't feel grounded in the present, then you're going to fly off. And that's one of the things that are very important to know, that once you say, I'm going to ground, that's when it begins. Once you say, I'm going to go within, or I'm here within, that without a choice, that's where it begins. And that means that to go within, it is a lack of distraction from for anything external, whether it's people, devices, ideologies, because within will only begin the process. At that point is when you begin to assess, one, what is really the world in retrospect to you, and because government, religion, even our family is something that comes up. It comes up because a lot of times we're looking to those sources to give us what's the next step. What's my next step? And then we look outside.
We look, yeah.
Is it okay to go out? Is it okay that I feel good and I want to see my mom or something? Like, we're looking externally. So yeah, if it's contrary to how you naturally see the world and see yourself in the world, you're in conflict then. So at that point, when we go within, the first question is, what is our grounding? What do we trust? What do we see our source as? And are we willing to discover more about it? Although it is something very unknown to mass society, it's not something you could just Google. You'll get some answers, but not the ones you get within yourself.
And you have an innate intelligence within you. You have an ancient soul within you, and within you, in this ancient soul, is no time. There's no past, there's no future. It's all compressed, it's always present. And it's true, we often, when we're uncertain and things don't flow the way that we like them, because we like to have the safety net of what we can control. It's really easy to go outside and ask questions about who I should be and what my next step is. And I'm going to say, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a practice, you're going to feel like the only answers are those that you hear, see, and um, you engage in, whether it's media, mainstream media, whatever it is that you're hooking into,
The groups you're a part of.
the groups you're a part of, you that all has to be like tempered by what is within. What is your yes? What is your soul's um, truth? And that never changes. That if you and maybe that's a place where um, that would be a training that you would need to have, is how do I look inside and listen to my internal intelligence that has the answers and can see with foresight, what my next move is, and help me in my evolution.
There's something that has scared a lot of people for a long time, even if you don't see yourself as religious or political, is that you can be doing something wrong.
Mm.
And in that, when you look within and you ask yourself, you see, even if you see, what do I not like about the world? That's usually where people start. Like, well, people are out there doing this, or the government's doing that. If you're out there looking at that, the first place when we say go within is, well, what contribution do you have to that reality?
Hmm.
And that's what scares people, when we take that responsibility that we may be perpetuating some of this, whether it's in our own nucleus with our families or whatnot, or in our workplace, or in society, if we actually play part of that game. um that's scary sometimes. Like, well, does that make me a bad person? Like, yeah, I indulge in sex or drugs, or spending money even, or paying someone unfairly, or neglecting my health, even that. If you start, it's easy to go into, is that good or bad? But really, the true power in that is just the awareness. And then, am I willing to change this? If you're willing to change this, you don't even have to draw out a map plan. Once you, like what Elena mentioned the about how everything's within, it goes back to the knowing of that we're connected to everything. So if we're infinite space and we're connected to everything, then the moment we say, I want change, change will arrive. If we wake up every day and we want to see the same thing will arrive as well. So don't fret if you're like, well, what's going to be my plan? If the financial system is falling, I don't know enough about this, or I don't, it's okay. It's just the willingness to move, the willingness to want to know more,
Yeah,
it'll arrive.
there's
I
that.
could say that, I guarantee that. Will other things arrive too? Like what you need to clear so that it arrives? Yeah, it
Yeah,
will. It will.
right.
That's part of the willingness. And the ancestors, the universe is in rejoices when you join that procession, because that is that is life. So not only, like the Jesus says, I got your back, but you gotta watch your front. So like you gotta play a part too.
You do that. That's the personal journey of each soul. I mean, it's like letting your kids run wild and not giving them some guidance or understanding, or at least, an awareness. Um, and then hoping that they, the best shows up. And, there might be that one child that figures it out from the moment they're, brought into the world. But most of us are, we just need to an understanding of our environment. And actually, kids are really great at learning and showing us where we've where we're stuck or where we're hiding.
And it comes from not needing to know
Right.
where everything's coming from.
No,
Just knowing that it's coming.
just knowing that it's coming. We often fear the unknown or the future. And this is why somebody asked, well, what is your soul's truth? Um, and I'm going to say that comes with the practice of being still. Uh, the earth may shake, the winds may blow, but being solid and still like a tree and quietly asking within, you know, what is this moment? How do I receive this? Um, how do I engage? And just listening without even if the chatter comes, oh my gosh, you got to get up and run. It's just like, give it that second. When I used to do martial arts, my teacher would say, fast is slow, slow is fast. And I would be like, what? That makes no sense. But when you're in the middle of a trauma or a crisis, um, or in a or a my best example is I was in a car accident. My mother was in my car. My former husband was in the car, and we got in the freeway. We got T-boned, T-boned in the freeway, and I could see the car coming. I don't know how it got lost control, but I could see it coming. And in that moment, I thought, okay, there's not much I can do. So in that second, it's like so fast. I turned off the motor. I told my mom to hold on, and I let the process happen. We got hit, we got tumbled, and in that moment, I could see the glass breaking. I can look at my mom. I could feel. I didn't hear sounds, but I could see it all happening, and it was just like time compressed and slowed down. In that moment, I thought, okay, this is what happens when you're in a car accident. You just let go. And when it was done, it was just like all of the time came back and the sounds came back, and it was boom. And I get the experience that when you slow it down, even in your mind, you can actually see what to do even in a split second. But you have to, one, have a practice that takes you there on a regular basis. And we talk about this every single time that we show up to these conversations. And that can be anything: meditation, it could be yoga, it could be martial arts, it could be cooking, it could be gardening, it could be cleaning your house. Whatever that daily practice is, in that practice, feel, learn, expand, breathe. So what is your soul's truth? Your soul's truth shows up in the stillness of those everyday things that you do. And then when fast, awful things come, you can slow down and trust and hear that really still voice. It's usually not the one that said, oh my God, da, 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 da. That's not the voice. That's not the voice.
It's when you're willing to not get swept up in, again, the external noise, external commotion. So it's about release resistance.
That's true. And so when you listen to the news and you're watching the news and it's like, you're all going to die, everybody's sick, the hospitals are overrun, that's not the voice either. And that's what we're trying to say. It's like,
way not the voice.
It's like, turn it off, disengage, go take a shower, drink some salt water, put your feet in the ground, get grounded.
Ask yourself what you need.
What am I?
Feel safe in that one or that first question. You don't have to have the whole answer.
Right.
But how can I make myself feel better at the moment? It's the beginning, at least.
That's about slowing down that anxious energy. One of my patients said today, but I don't know how. I just can't stop myself from those thoughts. And I said, you can and you do know how. You can and you do know how.
They call it switching the channel.
It is. It's exactly right. It is about switching the channel. It's, when you're listening, remember the old days when you listened to the radio and you had to like turn the knob
and balance it
to get the right frequency that gets you the clearest signal. Well, that's what we're not doing with our lives. We're not changing the channel, and we're not switching and adjusting our hearing so that we're getting that clear. We're just like, whoa, it's all static and I'm telling you, it is possible to shut that monkey mind information out and disengage. That's why I go to the desert when I don't have to be in the city. I go to the desert because there's no Wi-Fi for now. Who knows? That's changing.
Yeah, there's no Wi-Fi.
Thank God. No telephone, and there's just the stillness, and there's your heartbeat, and then there's you in this immense space, and you start to get a feeling like, you know what, I need to just listen. I just need to listen.
There's a whole reality taking place that you're not tuned into in the city. One of the other things that I'd like to highlight is that if you follow astrology, whether it's into the depths of your chart or if it's into what you see in a magazine or newspaper, one of the things is that they'll say, like, Taurus, you'll fall in love today or whatever. Those forces are moving through, but you don't have to necessarily get swept up in them. I do want to speak about that a little. And one of the things that is very helpful when you're grounding and wanting to find some change within is that if you're seeing repetitive patterns, you're probably stuck in the forces that move through, and you're being, what does that avatar say? You're going with any flow versus you knowing which part of the current you're going to take off in. So repetitive patterns are very important right now, and especially once you're not 20 anymore, because at that point maybe it just happened to you once or twice. But as you grow and you keep seeing your repetitive patterns, that's a really good place to know that you're about to go into a deeper place if you're willing to address them. Because when you go in, like you mentioned, ancestral patterns, that's where you'll find the ancestral patterns. Because then you see that maybe you consciously were like, well, you know what, I don't care, I'm going to go for it anyways. You roll the dice regardless. Or you find that I feel like I can't not do that. There's some part of me that feels like I'm not weakened by it, and I have no resistance to it. That is more than likely an ancestral repetitive pattern. And this time is taking us there. I was talking about taking responsibility. The next step is that's what the ancestors mapped that as, even in evolution. The next step is looking at and choosing to consciously break destructive ancestral repetitive patterns. And I think that's some of the easier things for us to see, because we like when something mirrors us. We love that. That's why people are attracted to astrology. Or when a tree looks human, or you get a carrot, that we love that. We love to be like, oh, it looks like a person.
We like to humanize
the
world around us because.
Or I'm just like that. Oh my God, I love that. So that is taking you to a place that, and then there's some things you're going to find that are repetitive patterns of ancestry that you want to keep. That's fine. But some of them are destructive. And I think that looking at that is it's one of the first places you get taken to. And again, I want to reiterate, doesn't make you good or bad. That's, I think, the first place, if you're willing to transform and find rebirth of self. Are you willing to also not judge not only yourself, but acts and things that are in existence? Good and bad it's going to leave you on one end of the podium. You're going to either be all the way over here or you're going to be all the way over here. So it's important to find balance because everything has its place or it wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Even the things we don't like looking at.
Even the things we don't like looking at. And and there's a world out there that wants to make that good and bad, and they want you to take a side, and they want you to not have a feeling or an opinion about it. And that's how you also lose your connection, and you lose yourself, and you move into a place that somebody else is directing. And then you figure you're in a place where you're like, how did I get here? This is that place of judging good and bad. We start to forget that, we forget that every soul has a journey,
That we're ever changing.
that's wherever changing. We're not the same people, and that we have a choice. We have a choice to create a different that alternative or reality that is in more alignment with the place inside, that squeezes when it doesn't feel right and relaxes when it feels right. And we don't always pay attention to that because somebody's telling us it should be good or bad. This is a big deal, especially, like Chrissy said, you want to go visit your mom, and you're like, people are saying I can't visit my mom.
I'm gonna kill her.
I'm gonna kill her, right? It's like this. When you're in a practice,
And loneliness is heavy.
and yeah, lonely, all this, there's this isolation and this feeling that you can't connect, and that's not by accident. We are stronger together. We are stronger when we're relating and we're conversing and we're trying the idea out, and there's somebody on the other end reflecting back at us. It gives us that sense of, okay, this is where I begin and end. And I could feel myself against the resistance or the backup of another person giving me that information. And you can do that, yeah, sure, like we're doing it now. But there's a design that wants to keep us from feeling. And that's what happened. That's what we're missing in this kind of reality that we're in right now. And so you have to go back to feeling. You have to feel.
That is the compass for this new era, is what do I feel? Not what do I think, or what do you think everything, like she mentioned about that some people feel trapped in their thoughts. You're not good or bad for your thoughts. Your brain will manifest all kinds of stuff for you. You just don't entertain them all, right? I think who does not have that experience that there's some thoughts you're like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Or I'm not even gonna think about that no more. You could apply those to the scarier ones too.
Right. Those thoughts will come and go like the wind, or like, I mean, those thoughts will always be present. Your job is to feel them and say, do I want to feed that thought? Is it based in a truth that
Is it serving me?
And is it serving me? Or can I ask a question about it that might really get me some better perspective? And we don't often question the thoughts. We just allow them to rule us and run us, just like the news, just like the media. And I'm trying to, my point is, just because it shows up in a thought process or in a voice or in a presentation doesn't mean you just allow it to drag you around and make your life go in that direction. You have to grab the reins, pull yourself back in and say, hey, is that really my truth? Is that really where I want to be? Do I even have to go there? There's so much. Chrissy was giving me some information yesterday about Saturn and Jupiter, right? Mm-hmm. Yesterday when I was asking about the oils.
Oh yeah.
And and she gave me like these oils really emphasize the energies, and I was like, okay, and I wrote them down, and I was feeling them, and I was like, I'm gonna go with this one. And I wrote to her and I said, I think I'm gonna go with this one instead. And she's like, well, she gave me the information why it was one. And I thought, I hear you, I feel that. But when I was doing it, I was like, I'm not pulled in that direction. I'm going to add this one. And boom, something lit up for me. And she's like, of course, go with what you're feeling. Go with where you are right now. I'm just giving you some info. We always have the choice to take that information and digest it and move through us, and then and then decide how is it going to assimilate. And I did use her information, and I was able to also sit with it and decide, oh, but this little adjustment made me feel just right in the moment. And sometimes that happens. And sometimes I just go with what you give me, right?
Mhm.
Because it feels right. But it's not blindly being tossed around. And, and I mean, think about it. When you tell kids, I have 5 and a 6-year-old, and the 6-year-old especially, I'm like, go do this or look at that. And she's like, I don't want to. She's already testing what is her truth about it. And she says, well, I want to think about it. We have that innate resistance to all information as a little kid, and we want to try it out. And I'm asking you, go back to that. That's an innate part of your being, right? I mean, um, so who going back to the loneliness, there's a big, big issue with loneliness.
Um,
There's I think about, this, and this goes back to what Chrissy was saying about your thoughts. A lot of the people who come to me about loneliness, the thought is, but I'm alone again, right? I'm alone again. And they're making that wrong. They're making that like it's a stigma or like an abnormality, you know, and they're not really understanding. And I said, are you really alone? I said, you're here with me, you're here with me. But we have this addiction. We were talking about addiction. We have this addiction that somebody physically needs to be with us 24/7 in order for us not to be alone. And we've talked about this in the past, that people being physically in their room doesn't necessarily keep you from feeling alone. So it's not about the people in the room.
there's two sides to it. There is the fact, like that you've mentioned on, that there is a power, there is something we create together. So if you're alone to the point where you feel you don't have that charge of human contact, because we do need human contact, you got to question, why am I not seeking it out? And if it's because someone externally is telling you you're not supposed to, you got to question, does that feel right? Exactly what she's talking, does that feel right to me? Do I really need to be this isolated? That's one. Two, if you do need to be that isolated, you may be in a place, you may be sick in a where you do need to be that isolated. Then what she's talking about, that comes up of, because you could be alone in a crowded room too. There is that
Yes.
reality, which is what you were bringing up,
Yeah.
right? Like that. And you could be alone and someone sleeping right next to you and you feel that aloneness. That's when your soul, when your being is like, you're neglecting stuff and I'm trying hard to get your attention here because I feel neglected. And what that is, sometimes, yeah, you need to go and find somebody who could help you get to that place. There's nothing wrong with that, because just people have been doing it for a long time. That's the only difference. One thing I heard Elena say many years ago that I definitely use and I feel is one of the best things she's ever said is, you're the map. I'm teaching you how to read the map. I just happen to be a map reader. So she learned the language and she's teaching you the language. That's all that somebody, when you seek help, is doing. If they're invading your being in any other way, that's invasive then. But more than anything, it's because you have, even when we use muscle testing, it's because you have the information, not because we're these all-powerful beings that could funnel, all your cures. It's because you hold it, and that knowing that you hold it is the first key. Um, but back to what I was saying about loneliness. One of the things that when we are alone and we disconnect, I think this connects with what Fabiola mentioned something about if the key is not having Wi-Fi. I mean, yeah, no, because at the same time, unless you just cannot shut something off, I mean, you could create a space where, there's people who do internet fasting, or they just don't watch screens for a month, and it's a great idea. That's a great idea. Like, so you could consciously say, okay, well, I'm going to not put that in my space. But when you do go and you feel alone, this is part of, again, what isolation really, what are you really doing in isolating yourself? And one of the reasons why there is, there are these external grand mandates about isolating us. When we go outside and the wind touches us, and the sun touches us, and the earth feels us on it, there is a communication that takes place that has always cured any feeling of being alone that I've ever had. When I've been on journeys on plant medicine, there's a stage when your body starts accentuating its sensory capabilities that feels really cold, and that if you go into that, you will feel alone and cold as ice. But I always remind myself at that point, I'm just passing through a phase, and I will put my feet in the ground. I will get right in front of a fire and just absorb it, breathe it in and breathe it out. I mean, the Tibetans have text about living off drinking the sun, and it's just breathing it in. The nutrients that are in these fuel we eat, food, they're coming from these elements.
Yeah.
We are made up of these elements. They are made up of these elements.
Earth, water, air, fire.
And that's what, when monks would isolate themselves, it wasn't, even if you're in a cave, you're in the earth. You're now communicating with earth.
That's
it was, the isolation was to hear these subtle voices, not just to be like, I'm going to suffer in this loneliness and see what breaks. And see, that's like a crude method. But when you just sit in water, you just let rain hit your face, there's a communication that takes place. And it doesn't say like, hey, you're okay, or like, but you get the feeling of being embraced. You get the feeling of, you know what, I think everything's gonna be okay. And it's all right for you to accept that.
Yeah.
Something feels like I'm all right. It's okay that's your sonar.
That is the exact point that I really wanted to make about that feeling of loneliness. It is this place where you are, when you're connecting to these elements, you start to feel the vibration and the energy of all life that has been placed in it. We forget that we're part of a cosmic and interconnected symbiotic relationship with all things. And we think because a rock is isolated in the desert that it has no energy or no information to offer, and it is a false premise. All things have energy, all things have frequency. And even as I'm talking and I'm thinking of those places that I go and sit in the desert, I feel them now within me, in my hands, communicating to me, sending me a frequency and an energy just by thinking about them. So the same goes with the people we're connected to. Somebody asked, especially in these times, how are we going to be able to connect when we can't even travel? So this is it. Right in this moment, in this instant, I think of my mother. I think of her here, and I feel her here, and I feel her, and I see her, and I hear her voice, and I'm connected, and I can speak to her, and I can receive information from that moment, in this moment, even if she's not in the room. even if she's not present, because like the earth or like the tree or like the wind, that information is passing from this couch to this floor to that earth over to where she is, through her feet into her being. And even less than that, it's just energy. It's like the Wi-Fi of energy. We don't see it, but it's passing through. She's in this moment, as I'm thinking about her, her field is energized by my intention of thinking about her, and I get a response. And that response is a sense of, um, like when you're cold and you take a hot shower and the hot water just warms your whole body and you're like, oh,
Penetrates your
penetrates
skin.
your skin. That's the feeling I get when I make that kind of connection. And it happens like this.
One of the keys is that she's allowing it, though.
True.
That I think is the key, is that in her having ever heard that the elements you're connected to and saying, that feels right to me, I'm gonna go with that, that's my reality, is why she's able to feel it. Because if you like with death, and for example, for somebody who's physically here, if you really feel like I don't have them anymore because they're gone, because I can't see them, then it's gone, then that's definitely gonna be your reality. But when you do send someone, and even like a symbol or something, it's like, oh, that's them, that's communication. It expands.
Mhm.
So that's a real key element to wanting to embrace our connectivity and moving through the space, like, what was the word you used? Like energetic forces versus like a bag of bones. As a bag of bones, it can't feel just, well, I actually can, but if you see yourself that crude, then you're going to be like, no, I got to call them or something.
Right.
I think everyone's had an experience where someone does call you, and like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you.
Just thinking about you. How does that happen? The energy fields connected and it motivated an action. And that's pretty much how we work if you pay attention.
I mean, it even happens sometimes where you're like, I really don't want to see this person. You're thinking it so much, and it's like, oh my God, they're here.
What you think about grows. So if you're thinking, oh, all the hospitals are filled, people are getting sick, well, guess what you're pulling into your energy field? More panic, more fear, a lack of protection in your immune system because you just gave it a directive. Everybody's getting sick, and I'm going to get sick too.
Mm-hmm.
You gave your body information a directive. So you must really capture your thoughts and really see where you're being taken. And if you're going along, getting on the bus with everybody else, even if that's not the direction you want to go, don't get on the bus. Stop, disconnect, redirect your energy in a place where you are getting fed, where you are getting served in your proper evolution. You know,
The question here begins with, who is the architect of your reality? When you begin to feel limited by anything, who has given that limitation a truth within you? Who has said, like, oh yeah, that is not possible? It's usually yourself,
yeah,
because there's always contradicting information.
yeah,
I think it's funny when people are like, studies showed that. It's like, if I want to go by it, I'm sure I could find studies, just as many, that counter what you said. So at the end of the day, what am I left with?
right.
Is what feels right to you.
You're going to have to. You're going to have to uh, test it out to a place inside that gives you your yes and your no. Martha had a really great question. She said, "Can you speak to the multidimensional aspects of love, especially right now that we cannot travel to see people from long distances?" And that's kind of what we talked about.
And it's like, I don't know. My mom lives in Vegas. I still visit her. I have a friend in Arizona. I still go visit. Who's directing what you could do?
You're we we have built up our, not just our thoughts and our minds and our energy, but we've also built up our body with the understanding that um, that our intentions and our practices boost and build our the strength and the protection that we live with. It's like we're not prisoners to a mindset. We're maybe we're pushing against that mindset with our actions and our beliefs and our practices. So, do I have the confidence to be with my mother? Yes. Do I have the confidence to be with the kids, with my patients? Yes. But we've got stuff to back that up. We're not just, this is not considered blind faith. This is actionable. This is stuff that we're doing every day, and you can too. If you're sitting at home waiting for the illness to seep in the door like a mist, you're losing your, not only have you lost your confidence, but you've lost yourself.
You feel preyed upon after, versus you moving through a space where you're still moving for your own vision. That's why I say, who's the architect of your reality? There's only a sector that has said that your visions must halt, wait for something to say it's time to go again, and then proceed as we direct. That's not coming from within me. And that's enough for me to, I mean, before fearing sickness, one of the first things that opened me up is to say, will I honor my health? Will I honor myself? Self love is some abstract thing. Sometimes it's like, how do we begin? Well, one of the things is, do you feel good? No. What could you change?
Right. What? That's great. There really are only two important questions. I mean, that I can think of right now is what do you want, and what will you do to get that? Now, if you want to be afraid, or you want to be alone, or you want to be sick, well, you don't have to work that hard. Just keep watching TV. um, but if you want freedom and you want love, or you want, then what do you need to do to get that? And that answering that question will open you up to the next step. And just keep asking the next question. And and one of them isn't why. Why is this happening? That's just one that's based in a past reality, and it's not fixable.
That's where the question of that the ancestors poses. If I don't like the reality I'm seeing, the why, it's like, how am I playing a part, and how can I take responsibility for my part? That's definitely within one's own capability and hands.
And that answers the question of what will you do to get the what do you want? Like, I want family, I want friendship, I want a healthy body. Okay, take responsibility. What will you do to get there? How will you get there? That it requires a personal action in your part, and that's doable. When somebody's sick, they call me, or us. They call us, and because they want to be better. They're taking a personal responsibility. And I'm telling you, when you get up and you do the action, you will find an answer. And it may not come all at once, it might come in stages, but it will come.
For some, there is there's another component to what's happening, and it happened around the time of the solar eclipse, and that's that there is a literal purging of poisons and toxins from the atmosphere. Just like if you have gotten sick and you've survived, it's a reset. Your body can come out stronger from that.
Yes.
But it means that hopefully we've all been sick enough to where you're so sick and like, I'm not gonna eat that.
I won't do that again.
It comes up. I'm very sure that whatever got you there, it went through your head while you were suffering whatever you were suffering from. And it is your opportunity to do it.
It is. The 5-year, my Aaliyah, the 6-year-old said, I don't know, she ate something that made her sick. She's like, I'm never going to do that again. It was like a 6-year-old can figure it out. Come on, we can figure it out. You said something too about the earth, the elements are they're purging and they're purifying, and I actually believe that is true. If you want to ask a why, then I'm going to throw this out that the earth is in response to those that live on it, and there have been many purges and many purifications to rebalance any disbalance in the planet and on the earth. And I don't doubt that this is one of those. And those of us who are in sync and have been doing the work of being connected, we're like riding that wave, like, okay, you're right. I needed to purge too. I need to purify and I need to detox so that I am ready for this next evolution, this next change, there's that old saying, those that don't adapt perish. So this is your opportunity to say, what am I still doing that's not making me better?
And so as the earth moves through space and time, because we're riding this current, like anything else, like when a child, like for people who have opted out home birth, that one of the pros is that as the child comes into this new space, it's going to gain the immunity of where it moved into, because it moved right into that space where it's going to be growing and developing. So the earth is a being as well. And as it moves, it's purging what it does not need so it could strengthen its immunity. We are in a symbiotic relationship. And that is happening to a lot of people. I mean, I haven't been touched physically, like I haven't been physically sick, but I have definitely seen certain forces move through the space that if I was still on my shit, on my patterns, I would have been caught up in that. Or I see it move through the space and I see my temptation for it, like, well, maybe it'll feel good or something. But if it's not gonna serve my purpose, then I'm gonna move on. And that's exactly what's happening. We're gaining the immunity we need. For some, it may be on a physical level.
Yeah.
For some, it may be on an emotional. Your relationship may be being tried. Your relationship with self. Maybe you lose somebody who's your root, your rock. Maybe you're the one who leaves and you leave someone to learn how to be without you.
Right.
We're all being touched in a different way. But when those challenges come up, it's important to remember those are the trials life puts you through to strengthen you.
There is that. I mean, the loss of a loved one is always going to have an effect on us. In some cases, very devastating. In fact, I lost my dad when I was 23 years old, and I certainly wasn't ready. I didn't even feel like I was a grown-up at 23 years old. And yet, in that time that I interacted with my dad through my dreams after he passed away, I really got that in his leaving, he encouraged me to find my own strength, because I'm going to say a lot of us relied on him for joy, for encouragement, and we were happy as clams with him being there, being our strength, being the one that made us happy or made us laugh, because we could be pretty, self damaging. I mean, we weren't very nice to ourselves, and he would always pull us out of that. But when he passed away, I had to learn how to do that for myself. And I really got that from him in my communications with him after he passed away. And I was like, wow, if he hadn't had died, I think it would have taken me a lot longer to evolve to a place where I was on my 2 feet, feeling solid and grounded. And I'm going to say many of us actually found ourselves when my dad, the power and the strength of him was no longer what we relied on. We started to look inside and develop our own inner strength. And I don't know.
And we give thanks
And
because I really feel a lot of these forces, especially when it's family close knit like that, they take the L for us, that's the loss.
yes.
Because I know in my case with my girls, a lot of people are amazed at how they've taken the passing of their father. But one of the things is because they see that too. Like he took on an energy that was obviously present. It's not only him. The fact that I was attracted and he was my husband, the fact that they came forth from us, they have an acceptance of that. They were a part of that. So the urge, the desire to maybe move through that energy of indulgence the way he did is present within us. But he did it so fast and so destructive that we really don't have that desire to do that.
Wow.
And in that they see that.
Yeah.
They see that he did take something on. And a lot of people, almost everyone has someone in their family that it's like chaotic or like or they're like problematic, they're the ones getting in trouble or they're the ones that are always, but I really feel that that is the soul that is running into the energy that people are trying to push down, like that's not present, and they take it on, not that they have to or that we should follow, but that they did is irrefutable, so we give thanks.
Yeah, I definitely give thanks. And I just know that if we go back to what you were saying about how the earth is an energetic field and an alive being all in its own in this vast universe, and my dad was an energy in this vast universe, is that is continuous. It never goes away. It's always present. It, what I guess what I'm trying to say is that just because my dad's not here, um, doesn't mean he's not here. Someone said, my mom's been gone for 20 years, and when I feel, I still feel her.
Because the way you all have kept them alive is a big part of it. Because, like I say, by the time I met you all, I never met your father. But you're right, he's still here because the way you speak of him, the way that energy he brought is still included and kept alive through, like, even how you choose to be at times, right?
Yeah.
That is why he's still here. You know why?
His energy is perpetuated and perpetuated in our thoughts and in our actions, and whether we say his name or not, right? So there's this gratitude, like Chrissy was saying, gratitude, and I would I love to hold him and squeeze him again? Yeah. But I do that when I'm with my friends or my family. It's like I experience that love and that immenseness when I give a hug or
and how we built with them, because one thing about my husband is that I think sometimes there were moments we shared, and I mean, if he's your father, I'm sure for sure that were expansive for both of us. And when I think of that, I feel expanded again.
Yeah.
And just the way a bad thought will take you to a place and you're like, oh, that sucked. The good ones take you there too, and they feed you again as well. And I definitely think that that's one of the things. It's like when we bring that expansion into continue from where that was a moment in time you could still write out.
Yes.
Versus seeing like it'll never be again. That will never be again. But you could expand on that was an inception point.
You can continue to ride that field, that beautiful feeling, that loving feeling, because one, you will never forget it. Two, it's energy. You can't destroy energy. So you can just muster it up and pull it to the surface and ride it, like Chrissy says, and expand it to your present day, your present moment. And that's another really key thing. It's like the world is falling apart and everybody's dying. And it's not really true, one. And number two, you don't have to stay there. It's a quicksand feeling and energy that if you dive into that, or you can pull up these experiences that I know this is a difficult time, but I have this to keep moving me forward. to this next place, which I have no idea what it's going to be.
It's a multi-dimensional universe. It's all happening at the same time.
Oh,
So back to, what are you going to tune into?
and how are you going to build your next house? Like the architect of your life, how are you going to continue to build this? Are you going to keep the foundation strong and add to it with the energy of these amazing experiences that do feed your soul?
Saturn.
Saturn, there you
That's
go.
what she just described. Right?
Yay! I'm a 2 with Saturn. And or 2 are
And rejoice in what you built.
and rejoice in what you built and feel. Some people have had such beautiful accomplishments and they disregard them like it was nothing. Well, those are part of the architecture of your life. Celebrate them and share that and allow yourself to rest in the work that you've done.
And know this, that the only way someone could stop you from creating your visions and your reality is to make you believe that something else has power over that. That's it. Once you take those reins back and you honor and you're committed to your visions, that's why people say, why do bad people prosper? Because they're just committed to their vision. There's no such thing as that. Commit to your vision. It'll unfold.
Yeah, it will unfold. You may not know when and you may not know how.
But it may not be exactly how you saw it.
Yeah, and you might not recognize it when it's in front of you because you are so close to what it should look like that you might even miss it and you're just going to have to wait for it to show up again. But it does show up. Feed those things that you want to grow. Keep adding to the foundation of what you've accomplished, and release and let go of the crap that wants to pull you off. It's always going to be put in front of you and you get to choose. If I'm going to eat this, will it grow and enhance and improve my evolution, or is it going to make me sick? Eat the donut, eat the carrot, kind of the same.
It's a good place to, I think it's a good place to put a pin in this because we do continue.
Yes.
And I do want to comment on that, our last episode with Sunny. There is a continuation. We just had a little conflicting schedules, and in January we will be back with him. And tomorrow is the solstice, and tomorrow is the 21st.
Yes.
If there's anything you're like, well, what do I do, or how can I be in tune? I'd say, 1, be outside. 2, just be willing to honor what comes up. Things come up. You don't have to really look for them. They come up. They're there. Just be willing to honor your healthy self, and not just in body, but mind, body, and soul. Like, there's been changes. One of the things of this era too is that the changes and this conjunction, you'll see it if you've looked up your own sign, it's pretty continuous, is that changes that have been difficult previous, and it's because of where Saturn was, and because now it's with Jupiter, the big baby, the eternal baby. They'll be easy to make. So you know how sometimes you're like, I know I got to detox, and for whatever reasons you're like, man, next week. But then sometimes you're like, I'm doing it, and you're just ready. Basically, that's happening.
We're at the ready part.
Yeah, you're
nice.
Right.
Well, on that note, I just want to also let you know that in January, we always do a purification with our bodies, and we have a purification program. And if you're interested, please write us, call us. You can call us in the office, or you can write us on our email, which is justbreathehealing@icloud.com. justbreathehealing@icloud.com.
We have general purification, and if you're interested in a specific thing you need to purify, we help you with that as well.
All kinds of purification. And it's good to know what you actually need. The other thing is, I know that some of you have had family members who've gotten sick and are worried about them. We also have some great protocols for people who might have contracted the virus. And that includes really strong, powerful herbs to rebalance the body and to protect it against further damage. And those of you who have gotten the virus and haven't quite felt better after going through it, there has probably been some damage to the cells of different organs. So you're going to want some of the herbs that we've um, put together to repair any damage and to rebuild your immune system for anything else that might be present in your life that you haven't quite cleaned up.
And even if you feel okay, it's a reset point. It's a good idea to dive in and really fortify what needs tension right now.
And if you are healthy, you still want to protect your body. We both take a ton of things. We're taking supplements and herbs and
we pay
teas.
attention to all of it, even if it's my hair feels drier today. What do you think that is?
Right. We're always paying
fine-tune.
attention, and we're always taking care of ourselves. And we encourage you to not just wait at home for the inevitable to happen, which doesn't need to happen. Fortify your body now. We have great simple packets that you can buy where you open up the packet, you take all the vitamins, and that's like one a day, and it'll help maintain a sense of health. And you don't have to get sick, and you don't need a vaccine to be healthy. I'm just saying, you do need to fortify your body, though. It's not like waiting outside, and if the rain comes, oh, I hope I don't get wet. It doesn't work that way. You still need an umbrella if you don't want to get wet. So take care of yourself.
Thank you. And a few people said they love us. So we love you all as
we
well.
love you too.
And thank you for joining. Big gratitude to Claudia again. And if any of you need any kind of technical support, please hit her up. I will post something with her handle so you can all know how to reach her.
And like us on Instagram, like
subscribe
us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're all getting used to this. And play us anytime you want. We don't have any, and if you want to donate, we appreciate that. We use that to help our technician to get to support her in supporting us. So thank you.
Thank you. Wholeness.
Thank you.